This is the multi-position probe. The probe holder is raised at the moment. The first thing to do is ensure that the micro switch is set correctly. So we lower the probe until it stops moving. The micro switch shouldn't have activated at this point. However, there's some lost motion in the movement of the handle. So when the handle only is moving down, it should activate the micro switch. There's an audible click between where the probe handle is raised and where the probe handle is lowered and touching so that the probe is firmly pressed down. To set up the probe head, we're going to start with the probe holder raised and the table out at its furthest position. Here we've got a typical reference sample which we'll place over the centre hole in the table, which is the centre of the measurement. We're then going to push the table all the way in and lower the probe holder as far as it goes. The 4-point probe has a protective cap which needs removing to expose the 4 points. To position the probe, place it over the bellows and push down with the bellows coming up the side of the probe. The probes are now touching the sample. Press down firmly on the probe head and secure in position. This means that the probe head needles are now firmly compressed on the sample with the probe in its lowest position. Connect the probe head and we're now ready to make a measurement. The probe can now be raised and lowered onto the sample and will be at the correct height for all samples that are the same thickness. Should you want to change sample thickness, we can remove the sample that's there, and here's a thinner sample which we'll place in the centre of the table, and again move it under the probe head. We're now going to loosen the probe so that it's moving more freely, lower the handle as far as it will go, and again press firmly on the top of the probe head so that the needles are compressed on the sample, and tighten the probe head at the side. The probe's now set for the height of all samples of that thickness, so when it's raised and the sample is moved either rotationally or longitudinally, the probe will go back onto the sample and the needles will again be fully compressed on that sample. It's important to note that whenever moving the sample, whether rotationally or longitudinally along the axis, you must raise the probe head, because otherwise the probes will scuff on the surface and it could damage the probe or the sample. When the probe head's not in use, we recommend removing it from the multi-position probe and replacing the protective cap to keep the needles safe, and the probe's then ready for the next user to set up.